who is a first-year master's student in music composition at the Moore School of Music. He's studying with Dr. Robert Smith. Eamon received his Bachelor of Arts in Music from Grand Valley State University in Allendale, Michigan. For his presentation of what he called Grimm Brothers Storytelling Through Music, he will be accompanied by the University of Houston Graduate Brass Quintet.
Good morning. My name is Eamon Carmody, and I'm a master's student in music composition. Today I'm going to talk about the third movement of my piece, Grimm Suite for Brass Quintet, and the ways in which I use the text of the Grimm's fairy tale, The Juniper Tree, as a source of inspiration for the music. In this way, I hope to illustrate one of a myriad of possibilities for drawing music from literature. Now, the story itself is typical of the Grimm brothers. A wicked stepmother kills her stepson, who is then transformed magically into a bird. This bird travels around their town, singing to the various townspeople and receiving gifts in exchange. He then returns home, giving 2 of the gifts, red shoes and a gold chain, to his sister and father, and dropping the third, a millstone, on his stepmother, whereupon he is brought back to life as a boy, and they all live happily ever after. Now, for the basis of this movement, I drew on the bird's song, writing a melody to fit the lyrics in the story. The melody and its accompaniment are altered in each section of the movement based on the context in which the bird is singing. Here's the melody in its unaltered form. In the first section, the bird is singing to a goldsmith. The accompaniment represents the gold necklace he is crafting, with each part intertwining like links in a chain. And also, at times, you'll hear what may sound like wrong notes between the melody and accompaniment. This is to represent the fact that the bird is interrupting the goldsmith, intruding on his work. Here's an example of what that sounds like. The second section details the bird singing to a cobbler. Here I focused on the class standing of a cobbler, illustrating the shoemaker's relatively low social status. With a slower tempo, a drone-like bass, and simpler harmonies, this section has a more folk-like, almost rustic atmosphere. You will still hear the bird's melody, albeit with more regular rhythms to fit the slower tempo, and this time it will be played by the trombone. Let's take a listen. In the third section, the bird is singing to a group of mill workers. The accompanying music is much louder and has much more aggressive articulations than the first 2 sections, depicting men engaged in hard labor. There's a heavy and steady underlying beat, similar to that of a working song intended to accompany repetitive, physically demanding tasks. The melody is once again changed to match the context, now with a more intense tone and regular rhythms. If you listen to the French horn part, you should hear it quite clearly. As you have heard, this piece does not attempt to explicitly convey the story itself. The music merely latches on to certain aspects of the text, specifically the bird's song and the context in which it is sung. For the goldsmith, I used the interlocking accompanying parts to portray the gold chain he is crafting. For the cobbler, I used simpler harmonies and a slower rhythm to emphasize his humble origins. And for the mill workers, I used aggressive articulations and louder dynamics to depict men hard at work. As I mentioned at the beginning of the speech, this method of picking out fragments of a story is but one of many possibilities. Now I'd like to leave you with one final example that shows the bird's return home. The melody is heard in the French horn part again, this time with a much faster tempo, leading to a dramatic climax signifying the bird's eventual triumph. Thank you.